Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are live. For the thousands of Nuggeteers in attendance, okay, possibly one family member, and the millions of Nuggeteers watching from around the world, okay, maybe 5 from Wisconsin, 2 from Illinois, and 1 from Texas. Temporarily Offline Radio presents Ham Nuggets, the fastest hour in ham radio YouTube. 60 minutes is 60 minutes. Yeah, I know. And now, here is your host, the man, the myth, the legend, if even in his own mind, KM9G, otherwise known as T.O.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Steve KM9G, and we had some interesting stuff going on with the way the screen was set up, but glad everybody's here to see the show tonight. We are going to talk about, I know it's going to be weird, I'm talking about the 6100. It's a radio I've never reviewed before. It's going to be total cold work here. Not really sure what's going on, but we're going to go through the radio. We're going to play around a little bit. I've got my friend Jason here from Ham Radio 2.0. We will have a link to his channel in the chat sooner or later, as soon as I stop talking and he starts talking and I can go behind the scenes and do stuff. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm fine, man. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. I've got quite a bit of caffeine in me, so it's going to be fun.
Okay, all right. That's good. That voice on the intro, I recognize that voice, but I can't place it. So
that is KC9CTP Kurt Terpstra.
Okay, yeah. Oh, you said caffeine and Good Game showed up.
It's like the magical words. You only have to say it once, though, because he's already, 3 times the caffeine as most people.
Right, that's right. Oh, good. So what's been going on, man?
So I have actually, I've made, I don't know, maybe 100 videos on this 6100 radio. So I've kind of made myself the de facto expert on this thing. I might actually know more about it than Xiegu does.
That would surprise me.
And now I'm like, I don't really know what to say next about it. I mean, I've already taken it apart and put it back together and let some smoke out of it and burnt up an amplifier with it. And I don't know what else there is to do. I mean, we still got to finish putting Raspberry Pi on it, Raspberry Pi OS on it. It's on there. It boots. I've got Wi-Fi running. We've got the screen to display, but the display's sideways. So we've got to rebuild out the video driver and maybe build out a new kernel.
Did you get Wi-Fi to work on the default radio?
Yes, I did that long before Xiegu did it in their firmware too.
Okay. Because Sean was telling me that he couldn't get his to work, and I connected to Wi-Fi, like. With I don't remember if it was the last update before this one or 2 updates ago, but I connected Wi-Fi. It said, "Hey, here's your SSID. Enter your password." And it said, "Okay, we're connected." And I'm like, "Great. Now what do I do?" I'm like, "Well, it doesn't really do anything, but I mean, I can connect to my Wi-Fi. Like I connect my 705 to my home Wi-Fi, and I don't do anything with that either." So,
well, the 705 I think exports a full audio chain over Wi-Fi. If you use,
I haven't tried that. I know you can. I know you can run the RSGBA software and connect to it over the same network. You can do that, but this doesn't have any remote software that I'm aware of.
No, right now it doesn't have anything going on at all. You can synchronize the clock, but it's really hard to get online in the first place. And so there's some weird things. We'll show it here in a minute, but there's some weird things about getting on your home Wi-Fi network because it defaults to an IP address, and then you turn on DHCP, and DHCP doesn't work. So the best way to do it is to put on a static IP address that you know is free on your network and turn off DHCP.
Okay.
So we have a super sticker from Gordon, the Gaming Ham. Gordon's got a fantastic YouTube channel. Gordon also showed up as a new member of the channel today. Thank you, Gordon. Appreciate the support. And the star of the show, maybe?
Yeah, there we go.
Got the radio here. Let's see if we can change that.
There you go.
So now you guys can see the screen, and Jason's got a direct overhead view, so somehow he's got the glare off of the screen, but it's still a little fuzzy. This screen is just hard to film.
It is, yeah. I was doing the first video I ever recorded with it. I was outdoor at the hunting lease, and the sun was directly overhead, and man, it was just kind of like looking in a mirror on the screen. It was terrible, but you got through it. You do what you can, so
Exactly.
I do like Ape's comment. I was like, because I was talking about, I didn't know what it did when you connected Wi-Fi, and he's like, it uploads your data to China. So
It probably does. I wouldn't doubt it.
yeah.
So we got a question in the chat: the 6100 or the 705? The 705 is almost twice the radio, and as a result, it's also almost twice the price. It really just depends on what your purpose is, what your journey in ham radio is, and where you're at in it. Yeah, they're apples to oranges. They're not really the same thing. There's nothing wrong with either radio. They're different markets. It's like trying to compare a Baofeng to a 9700.
Right. Yep.
They both work. They just work differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did some FT8 with this one, just on a external battery, on a Bioenno battery. So 10 watts, and on a Pac-10 infant half wave, and I made a dozen or so contacts before I just I was like, hey, this is working cool. It was easy to set up on the computer. I followed Josh's video that he did about setting it up, and a couple of the steps he said that worked for his did not work for me.
Right.
But I chalked that up to quality control at the Xiegu factory. There's different stuff here and there, but I got it to work. I mean, that's the important part. I got it to work. I used the X108G profile in WSJTX. Yep. I don't know if they've put a 6100 profile into it or not yet.
I believe they have in the new version of WSJTX, yeah.
Okay.
So Cyan 2002 is asking, what would make you choose the 705 over the 6100 or vice versa? I'll let you take this one first.
You know what? If you've got the money, buy the 705. If you're on a budget and you just simply can't afford it, then this radio is fine. But if you're like, if both the radios are in your budget, or if you don't care about cost, buy the 705. It's a better radio. It's got UHF VHF all mode, which this one does not and will never have. It wasn't designed to have it.
Right.
So it's got it's just got a lot more support for it. And ICOM has remote software that you can remote control the 705 and a plethora of other radios with it as well. Maybe Xiegu will come out with something like that soon. I've not seen it yet. The G-Sock certainly is not it.
No, I don't think the G-Sock even hooks to this radio.
I haven't even tried. I don't know.
It doesn't have the right cable to begin with.
Yeah.
So in my case, I've been working on Linux since the mid 90s, and as a result, I knew when this radio was supposed to have a Linux backend that I had to have it, and I was going to hack into it and play around with it, and that's what I've been doing with it so far. And that's where the fun is in this radio for me is going down that direction. That's something that so far is unlikely on the 705. The 705 is a good high quality radio. Both of these radios, if you took them into the office and then went and did a Parks on the Air activation over lunch with some of your coworkers, you definitely get that wow factor out of both of these radios. The 705 will have built-in GPS. It's got working Wi-Fi. It's got much deeper pockets in support and development. But the 6100 is fantastic for tinkering, and again, it's half the price. So it's a hard question, and it's kind of more of a personal question because that comes up with every radio that you're going to see. Is why? What are you going to do? Like somebody will say, "What should my first HF radio be?" And my answer is always, "What do you plan on doing with it?" And of course, they're brand new to ham radio, and they don't know, and so there's really no good recommendation. The only answer you can give them there is, your first HF radio is not your last HF radio.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
Yep, that's very true. Yeah, this one, I've had fun with this one, and quite frankly, the their older models of Xiegu were a little bit kind of hit or miss, and the 5105, the X5105, when it was released, had a bunch of bugs in it, but they did a bunch of firmware updates, and it's actually a very solid radio with the latest firmware these days. And the G90 was always a really good, solid radio. So I was really kind of hoping this one would be a little bit more polished when it was released, but it's not. But I think they can get there because their last two models that are still in production, by the way, have gotten there. In fact, the G90 was kind of always there. So I think if they take what they learned from the last two models and incorporate it in this one, they're going to have a good radio, even if you have to wait for a few months for some solid firmware to come out. So this is the first one that's ever had a built-in sound card with it. So if you like doing FT8, this is the easiest one to set up for FT8. You don't have to have that data expansion card, the CE19 data expansion card.
CE19.
Yeah.
Oh, that's painful.
Yeah, you don't have to have that. And this is the first one with something else. Well, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, but those aren't working right now. So it's
got IQ out, but so does the 5105 and the G90. The 705 has it, but not in the way you would think. You've got to use that RSBA1 software in order to visualize that. I don't think there's any direct way, but you can kind of fake it with the WFView software or the VB cable. But it's not true IQ out. It's just audio out, which you can then process as if it was a plug-in SDR.
right.
Dusty's asking if we tried FT8 on it. This thing works great on FT8 for a 5 or 10 watt rig. I don't know of any reason to say that it's not that great. What I have seen, if you're looking at the waterfall spectrum, if you're transmitting from like 1600 hertz down to 0, it doesn't have the same amount of power as it does from 16 up to 3. So I always try and stay in that higher end of it. And thank you for the super chat. He appreciates the answers. We appreciate the questions. So I'm glad you're here.
Yep.
Gives us something to talk about.
Right. Yeah, true. Yeah, in fact, FT8's the only thing I've done with this one so far. I've not done any sideband with it. I've tuned around and done some listening to guys activating POTA with it, and that worked okay. I want to take it out and do a POTA with it just to say I did it. I already have the X125B amplifier from Xiegu, XPA 125B amplifier from Xiegu, and it supposedly interfaces to this thing very easily. So I'm looking forward to using that. And yeah, there you go. Yep.
Mine's broken.
Yep. Yeah.
It does interface really easily. The L4001 cable, you plug it in and you turn it on, and it works.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think is that the same cable that is used on the G90?
No, it's a brand new cable.
It's a brand. Oh, okay. Then I need to get that. Then I don't have that. The only time I've used my Xiegu amplifier on the 705 and on the G90 several times, and it's always worked very well. So I've been happy with that amplifier.
That amplifier is a really quality piece of kit from Xiegu. It's actually a really good amplifier to pair up with the 705. A lot of people are talking about what is it, the Hard Rock 50, but that's a 50 watt amp, and this is a 100 watt amp. So.
Yeah, and I think is that the one that Mike just got, because you have to kind of hack it a little bit to get it to work with the 705, from what I'm told. But I'm not sure.
I've heard that from Kevin Laughlin.
Yes,
but I haven't seen it from Mike.
Yeah, well, he just got it, so I think he was talking about the video he had watched of Kevin's, and he's like, "Oh yeah, let's try that," and he picked one up from somewhere. But yeah, it's only 50 watt amplifier, and 50 is better than 10, but it's not 100 like the Xiegu. I know sometimes I can get 100, 105, 110 out of the Xiegu amp. So
yeah, and so Richard's talking about the tuner. The XPA 125 has a tuner in it, and you can use that tuner without using the amp, or you can use the tuner while you use the amp. So it works very well in both of those scenarios. The 6100 has a built-in tuner. The G90 has a built-in tuner. I don't know if the 5105 does it?
It does.
Okay,
yeah,
cool. And they're straight little good tuners.
Yeah. In fact, that was the first one that I think that was the first one they put a tuner in, and everyone was floored by it because it'll do like 9 or 10 to 1, something crazy high like that. So I think maybe not quite that high, but it'll do more than 3 to 1. So so it does really well for what it does.
Yep. So far, I'm happy with it, and. I don't know I'm not expecting absolute brilliance out of a $600 QRP radio. There are a lot of other QRP radios in this class that have a much higher price tag, like your KX2 as an example has a much higher price tag. And by class, I mean QRP and size form factor. I don't mean receiver quality or anything like that. But it gets on the air. It does the radio thing. It's got a beautiful color screen. It's got a built-in tuner. It's got a good SWR. I call it an SWR scanner because that's what it says on there, but some people don't like that word. But I actually like it, and I have a loop antenna, and because of the way that the waterfall display is set up on this rig, as you're tuning the capacitor on the loop, you can see the signal move underneath the center of the cursor on the screen. It's really neat to see it. Like, there it is, and then you can dial it in real strong.
Nice. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I bought it expecting it to be not quite ready yet, and that's what it is. So I was not disappointed, but I am hoping for some update. And what they've been releasing about 2 new firmware updates a month since it was released, something like that. So
if you've been in software development or web-based application development, there's this thing called agile methodology, and they do 2-week sprints. And at the end of the 2-week sprint, there's a firmware release. It is like we get a firmware every 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
And it's really lightweight features. I'm hoping that they're fixing a lot of bugs behind the scenes that they're not telling us about. But they've been putting them out, and some of the releases have been completely hit or miss on like the release notes say it fixes this bug, and you can just pick it up, do the thing, and notice that the bug's not fixed. So
okay.
I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, I can tell you a bug that I noticed on my last one when I just did this latest firmware update, which I think is dated January 17th. But this battery indicator right here, every time I would unplug, it would turn yellow. Like I'd let it, I'd plug it in and let it charge all night long, and then I'd unplug it, walk over to the couch, sit down, and it would be yellow. And I'm like, okay, does that mean the battery is crap and it's dying really quick, or is it just the indicators? And I was like, it's got to be the indicator. And it was.
So 2 firmwares ago, they released an all users must update firmware that's supposed to change all of the battery logic. And I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work with future firmware updates, because what you're supposed to do is do a full charge cycle, discharge cycle, charge cycle, discharge cycle, do that 4 times in a row. At that point, the software somewhere in the radio, because this radio has a couple of different brains inside of it, the software inside will be calibrated to the battery so that it knows what to display in the fuel gauge, the battery percentage indicator. And I think on the very next firmware update, you're going to wipe out all of that training that you just did with it. I don't know where it's stored. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm willing to admit that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, but ever since I updated this latest one, I don't see the battery problem anymore.
Right.
So I'm okay with that, and you see how the waterfall is still got some birdies in it. I have no antenna hooked to it right now. I still got.
What's
some
your
birdies
RF gain set to?
That's a good question.
Tap the big button at the top left, the big knob, and push it in.
Yep.
Push it in one more. There it is. RF gain.
Yeah, RF gain. Yeah. 50. Does that say 50? I think.
I can't read it. I think I'm either a little old man blind or a little color blind, but that red on blue background is impossible to read.
It's washed. I can see it fine right here if I look at it like this, but in the camera it's washed out. Yeah. So for whatever reason, I could turn the screen down a little bit, but yeah, it's at 50 right now, 50.
And if you're moving the VFO, those birdies weren't moving.
No.
Yeah, they're still staying there. Yep.
Yeah, they're still staying there. Yeah, that was
the one over by the VFO moved. But the one right underneath of your center frequency
like the one
didn't.
right there. Yeah.
That one
it's
stays.
Not moving. It's staying right there on the 0.
Now I have seen it where you get columns down both sides of the waterfall.
I've seen that.
If you turn it off and turn it back on, that'll go away, or you do a firmware update, that'll go away.
Okay. All right. Well, there we go. Oh yeah.
It's like the old man blind. Thanks, Dusty.
I
said it, but
that's the VFO. Or the RF gain, rather. What do you recommend that being set at?
Whatever works for your situation.
I mean, that's
the way it is with any radio.
Plug it in, but yeah. So, Shark on Wheels, did you do the actual firmware update in the system menu also? Yes. The baseband or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to boot it up from the card, which I have the card right. We can go through that if you want to.
Yeah,
the card right here, and turn that on. Let's see. Turn that off here. And it's got a bunch of
doing a firmware update on battery.
I know it. It's literally been charging all day. I took it off the charger like 20 minutes ago, like right before we started. So, okay.
You were also pretty brave leaving it on the charger overnight unattended too.
Well, I've done that several times with it. So I
don't trust it.
Yeah. I kind of don't blame you.
Yeah.
But nevertheless.
I also have this missing thing here on the back of mine. I don't know what that's about.
What? Oh, I can't tell what that is.
It's the warranty sticker that's missing. It just says void. I don't know why it says that. It came from the factory like that. I don't know. I don't have any videos on my channel of tearing this thing apart or getting inside.
Of course not. Of course not. Yeah, of course not. Okay, so that was the wrong card, I guess. You know what? I'm just going to download I've got the firmware already downloaded. I'm just going to flash this card again.
Okay, cool.
So,
It's a pretty straightforward process, and I almost need to do a
bad.
video that's just a clean how to update your firmware video as opposed to a firmware rant video like I've been doing.
Right. Yeah, and I almost did that with this one when I updated this like 2 days ago. I was like, oh, okay, that's that one. I almost did that with this one, and I'm like, well, I just was being lazy and I didn't do it, but I should. Let's see. No, I've got one of these cards here. Boom. And that's got to be it. Okay. All right. It should be this one now. I found the one that I think I used.
It goes in upside down. Upside
yeah.
down. Turn it over.
I can't ever remember. I tried that, but I don't think I had it squarely in there. Helps if you get it in the correct orifice.
I'm not touching that one.
Yeah, I was going to say the right hole, and that sounded wrong too. So
yeah, there's no good way to say it.
There's no good way to say that. Boom.
All right, so you turned it off. Now we got to turn it on again, and it'll boot right off of the external SD card.
Correct.
And what you'll see is a Linux boot up screen, and it's actually going to format the internal storage. It's called MMC. It's going to format the internal storage, create new partitions, and then copy all the data over to the new partition. And then it's going to say it's going to power itself off. And if I've done this myself a couple of times by accident, if you don't pull the card out, it'll do this forever every time you turn it on.
Mine doesn't power it well. This time, mine did not power itself off. It powered the screen off, but this little green light right here stayed on. So I waited for it for like 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm like, it's not doing anything on the screen. I guess it's done. So I pulled the card out, rebooted, and it came up, and I went in and did the system settings thing. So I guess it worked. It showed the right, when I did the system settings update, it showed the right version that I had just installed. So I guess it worked, but this is actually the third time I've done it because I wasn't sure it took the first time because this indicator never turned off. So
right.
I don't care. We can upgrade firmware all night long. I don't care.
Yeah. It's a fun little toy to play with, and I, I've got a bunch of other radios sitting next to me on the bench here. I've got a couple sitting behind me, so I'm not worried about having radios. I find good discounts. You take your time. It accumulates slowly. We're not all billionaires here on YouTube.
Not yet.
Not yet. Soon. Yeah. So now it's saying power off.
It's going to power itself off, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were gonna say something?
I did take my you see that green indicator still on.
Yep.
So I did take my my power cable that came with it and put power poles on it this week. So
cool.
Got that going for me. So now I can power it up from the. Do you know? Because I haven't tried this yet. If I plug this into a battery, does it charge the internal battery?
It should, yeah.
Okay.
As long as your external battery has enough juice to do the internal charging.
Okay.
So it's got to have I guess it's a minimum of 9 volts, but it probably wants to see your 13.8.
Probably, yeah. So I haven't tried that because I just put power poles on it like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I've always used the AC charger that came with it. That's how I've charged it.
So that AC charger I have only plugged in once, and then I put it back in the box and forgot about it. That technically is a cell phone charger.
Yeah. Looks like it.
It's not special at all. It's not useful at all.
Well, it is if you want to use the AC power to charge it.
Right, but you can't TX with that thing.
Oh no, not at all, not at all. Okay.
So while we're talking about batteries, this thing has 2 batteries inside, and they're the LiPo, the pillow packs, and then it has a battery management system inside. So as long as there's enough battery voltage to push power into the batteries, it'll do it. And then you just hit that system settings button like you did, and wheel over to the firmware upgrade.
That one there.
Yeah.
Okay,
and you can't read that on
you can't
camera,
read it, but it says 2022-0117-003.xgf. And that's the latest one. So we
Yeah, that's the latest one you can get off of Radiodity. They
Yeah.
release it to a couple of us first, then they release it to. They don't take any feedback from us, but we get it first, and then they'll release it in EU, and then it'll show up over on Radiodity's website for us to download.
Yeah.
So I've got a video on my channel going over the details of the latest firmware from 125 that Radiodity doesn't have yet.
It shut off when I hit update.
That's not good. That's not supposed to happen.
No, it didn't do that.
It actually
last
will
time.
not reboot when you do the firmware.
No,
update.
it didn't read. No, when I did the firmware update, it did the status bar at the bottom, and then power comes up. Okay, firmware update. That's the correct one.
Yep.
And I hit upgrade.
Yep.
Powered off.
Yeah. You don't have enough power. Plug her in.
I guess I'm gonna have to plug it in, aren't I? Well, that sucks because
Use that fancy new power pole cable you made.
I don't have a battery here next. Well, I've got my plug it in my power supply, I guess. Which side is that on?
The wrong side.
No, the wrong side.
It's on the left side
Yeah.
with the BNC.
Yeah, it is. Let's see it.
And if your 705 cable's already plugged in, that one will do it too.
Right. You know what? Sean told me that. And I'm like, really? The 705? And Sean's like, hold on. He's like, I want to double check before I tell you wrong. So,
Yeah, it's the
and it does. It's the same thing. It works great.
It's that standard. It's the same one that you get on your MFJ auto tuners and power meters and stuff. I want to say it's 5.5 by 2.5 millimeter or whatever, and it's center positive.
Okay. Let's put that in there. That's not quite.
2.5 millimeter. Yeah.
Just barely fit. Okay.
Try not to quote facts off the top of my head while live streaming.
Yeah.
It's a good way to have the whole chat tell you how wrong you are.
Oh yeah. I've been there before. It may have shut off because you aren't plugged into power, Sean says. Okay. Well, it's plugged into I do have it plugged in my 50 amp hour Astron now. So
Perfect.
so
Now you're ready to do it.
Yeah. This. There we go. Firmware update, upgrade. There it goes.
And it never asks
send.
for confirmation. You just push that upgrade button. It's like, well, you already pushed 3 buttons to get here. We're going for it.
Right. Yeah. There it goes.
Because I did this when I first opened the box, and I was like,
Okay.
used to call that pucker factor.
That's right. And in the instructions it says to hit this, and the radio will reboot, but the radio does not reboot.
Yeah, I've
So
never
you have to
seen that.
manually reboot it. And then
And so inside of this radio, you have an ARM Cortex all-winner, what is it, an A33 R16 chip? It's a cell phone processor chip. It's a Raspberry Pi chip.
okay.
And then there is a second chip called an STM32, and that STM32 is the one that you just updated. So first you update Linux, then inside of Linux you update the STM32 board that powers the SDR.
Interesting.
So there's
Okay.
there's like 3 apps. There's the app that runs this display, which is what they call a QT app. QT is the windowing toolkit that you use to display graphical stuff on screen. Then you have Linux behind that, and then you have a connection over to the STM32 board to do SDR work.
Okay.
We typically call that the baseband.
Yeah.
But I think we're
STM
just borrowing that.
Yeah. Could be. STM32 boards are what's in a lot of your Raspberry Pis. Or I'm sorry, a lot of your Pi Star devices.
Yeah.
So cool. Well,
Howdy, Dennis. Welcome. And so now if you go back into system settings, and then there is a system info, the second option. And so now you'll see version 1.1.2. And I have done this where the base is just garbage. It's all garbled. It's not readable text. And then I've rebooted it and it's come back and has been readable text. And then I've also seen Josh had V1.1 on his promo radio that he got. And then I got V1.1.1. And then all of the upgrades until January, I think, were all V1.1.1 still. So
I'm pretty sure 1.1.1 is what I've done. This is my second time to update the firmware. I updated when I first got the radio, they released a firmware like the next day or the next week or something. I updated it. I'm like, okay, this is easy. I just wanted to see how simple or not simple it was, and it was simple.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've updated it since then. So I think I was 2
No.
versions behind, but that's why I asked Sean. I was like, so do I need to do incremental? He's like, no, it doesn't matter. They're all self-contained or whatever it's called.
Right.
So
And
yeah.
for now, that's true, because when you stick that SD card in, it will reformat the internal memory.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time you stick the SD card in, no matter which one of the 5 different versions of firmware we've gotten in the 2 months that this radio has been in the public hands,
yeah.
it'll be just fine. That might change in the future, but for
Mm-hmm.
now, I don't see why it would. But I'm not going to guarantee that forever in stone.
Okay, good. Yeah, January. I was just looking at the ones, all the ones on the Radioddity website are listed by date, so I just like grabbed the latest one and went. So
Yeah. Do you have an antenna or a dummy load you can plug into that? Because a lot of people are talking about the SWR not working, the SWR meter on the radio not working.
let's see if I do or not. I at least have a dummy. I should at least have a dummy load if I can find the right adapter. Yeah, like that. Bump. Oh, you know what? I bet I could do. I bet I could do that.
Don's saying he's getting 1 watt out on FT8. Don, in order to use this radio on FT8, you need to set the radio manually to USB-data, or I think it's USB-D or US or DIG-U or something like that. It'll make sense. You know what I'm talking about. You need to set it to data mode, and you need to go into the FT8 software and make sure that it is not set to change modes at all, because the FT8 software doesn't know how to set the mode properly. You might already know this. I saw your question in the chat, and making sure that everybody's all on the same page.
Yeah, I remember when it was brand new, you had to go in. It kept changing it back from digital U to USB by itself, and there was something you had to do to fix that. I don't remember what it was now. So, all right, let's see. All right, give me 1 second here, T.O.
Sure.
I gotta switch my my antenna. I gotta turn my antenna switch. And see if I can get to it.
I think Carlos missed his premiere tonight. I was trying to message him and go, "Hey, where are you at?"
Oh,
But he wasn't getting back to me. So he did a 18-degree parks on the air. My problem with going outside in the cold is my fingers stop working, and that's hard to do anything. So I try to get everything prepared before I go out, and then just real quick connections, and then get back in the car with the heater on. Which is almost what I try to do during the summer when I POTA outside, is real quick connections and then get back inside with the AC on. So it just depends on what climate I'm in. When I was in Ohio for the Youth on the Air camp last summer, it was really humid, and just sat inside the car with the AC on. And here I haven't even gone out for POTA this winter because it's been long and cold. Not a whole lot of snow up here though.
I totally rednecked that because I've got one of those Alpha Delta switches, and I've got four jumpers coming off of it. 3 of them are going to radios behind me, and the 4th one is a test lead. But the hand turn switch, the hand turn knob that's on the top of the switch has a set screw that came out a while ago, and I set it somewhere and I don't know where it is, so I have to take a pair of pliers and turn the thing out. It's just.
Oh, you've got signal. Look at that.
Yeah, we're on the off center fed dipole now. So
cool.
And that's not as this. It looks a lot better in the screen than it does in the camera. It doesn't. It looks like there's a hell of a lot of noise in the waterfall right now, but it doesn't look like that when I'm looking at it right here. So anyway.
Yeah. So we were going to check out the SWR meter. So if you find a clear frequency, and you're on 20 meters, which is probably shut for us right now, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just hit that PTT on the top, we should be able to see the SWR meter go.
Okay, PTT.
And the SWR meter, if you're looking at the VFO frequency display, 14.260.000, it's directly underneath the .000.
This little meter right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it says 125 infinity or something like that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The one is white. The 2 is yellow. The 5 and infinity are both red. All right. So I'm missing the PTT. Where am I? I know it's on here somewhere.
Gordon's saying that he'd be very blunt in his reviews. I think I've been fairly blunt. I'm enjoying reviewing the radio. I'm glad
It's
that
on
I
the top,
purchased it.
that's
I'm
why.
happy with it, but I have also, been riding the roller coaster of disappointment and reappointment.
Yeah,
Disappointment
that's
and
for sure.
appointment.
There it is. Okay. Disappointment and appointment. This is the PTT here. Okay.
Yeah. So it looks like you've got good SWR, but you're also not putting out any signal. So if you do the old man whistle or you switch it over to FM. Yeah, there you go. So your antenna's pretty well in tune.
Yeah. Well,
Or
I mean,
your
it
meter
should
doesn't
be,
work.
but that okay. That time it actually moved. There you go. KC5HWB testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I saw it move that time, but it didn't move the first time. Oh well. Okay.
Yeah, and your microphone is lower left of the VFO knob, that little tiny hole.
Oh, right there.
Yep. Right
Oh,
underneath your
gosh.
hat.
Right underneath that.
You're
Okay.
fine.
Okay, Alex, how was that? One KC5HWB test. There you go. All right. So
So do you have one that you're not very not very
I
resonant
think
on?
I think that like generally I have to hit the tuner on like 12 meters. So if
Yeah.
we can do the band up and down, the band down.
Gordo, if you do a lot of negative, bad reviews, not only do people start associating you with that negative, angsty guy, but you also stop being able to do reviews because nobody wants to send you anything to review.
Right.
So you got to play that balance line of being completely honest and also, getting the right information out. And we try to do that. There's a lot of times where we won't say something bad by not saying it at all.
Right. Mode.
But sometimes it just needs to be brought out. Like when I talked about that toy box antenna, it works, but it's way more trouble and effort to set it up compared to other things that work 100 times better.
Correct. Okay, let's try narrow FM on 12 meters. That ought to be fun.
In my teaching classes, they called that the compliment sandwich. Jason, I really like how you dressed for the show tonight. I did want to tell you that when you stuck the SD card in the orifice, you had it in upside down. But I do think that hat, the POTA logo on top, is really good for the theme of tonight's show. So thank you very much for being here.
Exactly. That's a good way to say it. All right, so it won't key up FM on 12 meters, which, okay, that's fine.
It won't key up FM on 12 meters?
I hit the PTT and nothing happened.
Well, you're in CW now.
It's not wanting to key up at all on 12 meters.
We'll move it from CW mode over to either FM or AM.
That's where I was before, yeah.
Okay, so go
It
into...
doesn't want to key up on 12 meters at all.
Yeah, that's interesting. Go into radio setting 1, I think it is.
Okay.
And there's a choice for Mike Cell, top right.
Yep, see it.
And then it's set to auto, so change that over to internal or whatever it's called instead of handle.
How do you change
Oh, yeah,
that?
so this doesn't work the way you think it is. So at the bottom,
Okay.
there's those 5 soft buttons. One of those is plus and one of those is minus.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So hit one of those. And hit the other one because it goes in one direction and then it goes in the other direction. There you go. So
Okay.
handle.
Handle.
One more time because you don't have the handle plugged in. Built in. There you go.
Built in, okay.
Now try
Now
on
I didn't do
PTT.
that with the 20 meters, so I don't know. Why was that?
I'm not saying it's going to work. We're just troubleshooting.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nope.
Yep, not
It's not
working
keying
at all.
up 12 meters at all.
Interesting.
I haven't tried
And then-
12 meters on this radio.
So go back to 20 and see if 20 still has the same problem.
Okay, that's fine. No, wrong way. 20 meters.
Oh, are you out of band on 12?
I don't think so. I think it's in at 24. What's the highest point in the band? I can't remember.
I don't know.
For 12 meters, I can't ever remember. Okay, it's working. That's
Yep.
working. Okay, maybe I was out of band. I lowered it down a bunch. I was at like 24.950 at the beginning.
Yeah, chat's saying you're out of band.
Well, good. It doesn't key up out of band then. I don't remember what
Not with your software. It does with mine.
Right.
So there's a link in the description below for the Toads Discord. We've got a channel called X6100 Shenanigans on the Toads Discord. And in that channel, we've got a lot of very smart people. So they're saying 2489 to 2499.
I'm too low. Okay.
And one of the members in there, I believe it's Chuck, has been dutifully hacking and hex editing the radio software. So we're able to get 10 watts on battery power, which is not advisable. And we're able to do what they call free banding or Mars mod, which is also not advisable. But it's fun to experiment. There you go.
Okay. Hello. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Quite frankly, I don't think it's working. I always have to tune my antenna. KC5HWB. I always have to tune my antenna for 12 meters when I'm doing when I'm on the flex.
So now that we've got that, go into the app button underneath of your volume button, left hand side.
App button, yes.
And hit SWR scan, second one on the bottom. And we'll see. I actually like the SWR scan in this video.
This is pretty cool. Yeah, I've only used it once. I couldn't remember where it was.
Now there's a speed control and a span control at the bottom, but this is fine. We can watch this. And it's telling me that you're 3 to 1 all across the band right now.
Yeah, but
And
that's not what the
little
meter
tiny
was saying.
dip.
Yeah.
And
What's
that little tiny dip is right in the center. So you happen to be
24.9?
right at the right spot.
I can maybe so.
So the center of the screen is where the VFO was when he hit the SWR scan button.
Right. It's like 24.9.
Yeah, so you have perfect SWR right where we just happened to accidentally be.
Right. Oh my gosh. Power level is 5 watts. I'm on 5 watts right now. Well,
Yeah.
does it always do the SWR scan on 5 watts though?
No, I don't think
Okay.
it puts out a full 5 watts when it's doing the scan.
All right.
I need to actually put that on a meter and check it. And see, now it went through the second time and it moved. So
Yeah.
exit out of here and then run your tuner.
Okay.
So just the ATU button on the top. It's all the way
Yeah.
over on the right.
Oh yeah.
If you just hold it in, it'll
I'll
start
hold it.
tuning.
There it
There
goes.
you go. And now the SWR meter is working.
Mm-hmm.
And now we go back into SWR scanner at the bottom. And we'll see. It should go 3 to 1 across and then drop down.
And then drop down.
Yeah, my 6100 does CB, but only at 4 watts.
Oh well, I guess.
No.
I guess halfway you're legal.
I'm restricting myself to 4 watts till I can be legal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's the tuner.
Oh, there it
kicked
is.
in,
Okay.
And then you're back out again.
Okay. That's cool that the SWR scan recognizes the tuner when it's in play. So okay.
And so now if you go back out,
yet.
and your SWR meter is working at the top now. If you go back out and try and transmit, see if it'll still work.
KC5 HWB test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So on the January 17th firmware, the SWR meter doesn't appear to be useful.
No. I don't think I would trust that. I think I would bring a meter along or bring an analyzer along. KC5 HWB test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I don't think I would trust that. But interesting. That's something I have not toyed with yet.
Excellent.
So good.
Well, Jason, you ought to be pretty proud. This is the most people I've had on a Nuggets show, and as long as I can remember, we got 124 people watching. So
Good.
Any new folks, be sure to hit the subscribe button. I'd greatly appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good stuff over here.
Yeah. This is a fantastic radio, though. I mean, it's been a lot of fun to play with.
Right.
And it does actually radio. It does also do digital modes, FT8, and other digital modes as well. It does do CW. I've heard a lot of people that are not happy with it for CW.
Yeah.
The CW decoder is not as good as the one in the G90.
Okay.
It's got a CW trainer mode, which really is just turning off break-in.
Is that what I haven't? Yeah, I saw that in the menu, but I haven't tinkered with it. I didn't know what that was doing.
So I think it's just what they refer to in their language and then translates over to our language as CW trainer. But on any other radio that you have, it's turning off the break-in setting on that.
Okay.
Why would we assume the SWR meter isn't working if the ATU has nearly zeroed the SWR? Just curious. So the reason why we were saying that is because before we ran the tuner, it was saying the SWR was great. And when we ran the SWR scanner, the first time through, it showed that it was good right exactly where we were, which didn't make sense. And then the second time, it showed a dip before where we were and then was 3 to 1 where we were on the VFO. So that's why we're assuming it doesn't work. And when you're talking, it should move off the
Right.
0 to indicate what the current SWR is, because it's not going to, I don't think you're ever going to get 1-to-1.
No, I mean, it's this antenna is not a 1-to-1, especially on 12 meters. Because I've been using this antenna for about a year, so I kind of know where it is good and where it's not good. And when I keyed it up and whistled into it or just threw my call sign out, the meter didn't move at all. If it had moved a little bit, I'd been like, okay, yeah, it's doing something. But it like didn't move at all. It was flat, and I'm like, yeah, that's not that can't. I just know my antenna, so
Yeah.
or I know this antenna, so.
So an off-center fed dipole is usually resonant on a frequency and its harmonics. And I'm sure that 12 isn't a harmonic of this antenna. What is this,
No.
a 40?
It's a 40.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it does
that's-
pretty good on, I mean, I can tune it anywhere I want to. It does good on 40, 20, 15, and
10.
it actually doesn't do, well, I should say that. This is an N9 SAB antenna, and I contacted the guy, and I was like, man, I can't get this thing to tune on 10 meters for the life of me. And he's like, really? He's like, that. Well, come to find out that it tunes great on 10 meters in the single sideband portion, because that's a really wide band we've got, right? But down on the FT8 portion, 28.074, it doesn't like that. I can get it to tune kind of sometimes, maybe.
Yeah.
During this cold snap we had, it tuned fine. I don't know what that has to do with it, the weather. But generally speaking, I can't get it to tune down at the bottom portion of the 10-meter band. But I could tune up to like 28.450 and talk all day long.
So move that down to, minus 10 or minus 15 or plus 10. Move it 15 in one direction or the other. And they're asking in the chat, if you key up when it's out of tune and the ATU is turned on, will it tune automatically? And I think it does.
Does it? Okay. That's 15 lower. Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. KC5 HWB testing. I didn't hear it clicking or anything.
It did not tune anything in. Might not be a good test, though, depending on the antenna. Now, if you move to 80 meters, it'll probably be out of tune.
Oh, yeah. It won't even... Let's see. That's 10 meters. Let's go the other direction. We'll go 40.
Yeah, 40 should be open right now, though.
It is. There's 60. 80 meters. Oh, that's a really nice crap signal right there.
A overseas AM radio station?
It could be. I don't know what that is. It's probably just RFI, but KC5 HWB test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, see that meter right there is not moving at all.
It should be complaining big time right now.
Yeah, it should be complaining. Yeah, because this antenna's, I mean, I can tune it. I can hit the tune button enough times, and I can actually get it to tune 80 meters. And I've made a couple of FT8 contacts on 80 meters, and I think it's pushing like 40 watts out of a 100-watt radio after the tuner kicks in. So, so it'll work, but it's very, very inefficient.
So what you just said, this is probably 10-to-1 out. So it should be off the charts on your SWR meter. Not just It shouldn't be just 3-to-1. It should be like 10 or 11 or 12-to-1. So it should just be way off scale.
The antenna is too short for 80 meters. So you want to try a scan?
So now they're asking a scan, yeah.
Let's try it and see. Let's say in like 5-to-1 right there. Yeah, that's the 5.
So hit that speed button real quick to speed this up. And see, now it's going twice as fast.
Look at that. At the higher end of toward the 75 meter end of the band. That's not
80
terrible.
meters is a big band.
It is.
So I asked a friend of mine, because you know how it used to be 75 meters back in the old, it was actually 2 separate bands, and then they combined it into one.
Yep.
And I said, how far apart is the lower end of the band from the higher end of the band? He says, 5 meters.
Nice.
I mean, but I didn't think about it, but he's absolutely correct. I mean, it is 5 meters longer on one end of the band than the other.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to tune your half wave, that's 2.5 meters,
Right.
of wire that you need to move.
Yeah, see, it keeps moving up over here, but it's dropping down at the 75 meter portion of the band. It's almost halfway decent. Right there, it shows 3. The first scan, it was showing like 2-to-1 at 75 meters. So I don't know.
Now let's see how the tuner works on this band.
Okay. Exit. All right. So that's going to be right here.
Yep.
Let's turn that off.
It's funny that it works while it's tuning, but not while you're doing normal. Okay, now do the SWR scan again.
I bet that's going to tune it. I think.
Well, you'll find it'll hit right when you get to the center. It should come into play. There it is.
There it is. Boom.
And so when you were on 12 meters, that was the whole 12 meter band it tuned in. And now that you're on 80, it's only tuning in that little portion.
It's only about, that's only about this much.
It's tuning in about 12 meters of the 80 meter band.
Right, exactly. That's probably true.
Yeah, so the SWR meter is working in the SWR scanner.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
So it'll go back to the left-hand side, and it's off the charts. And then it'll gradually get better and better. Of course, it'll be perfect when it hits the tuned section of the radio. It's back down to perfect.
Yep.
And back
right
up.
There.
But it wasn't. The scanner's moving faster than the smoothing operation.
Right.
On the SWR meter.
Right. So, a lot more noise on that band too. Well, but it's nighttime, so there's more activity on that band there is on 12 meters right now. So.
Yeah, so what is over to the left on your waterfall that's that big signal?
I don't know. It looks like a...
That's huge.
Yeah, it is. That's just noise.
That's a lot of noise.
It's some kind of RF. I've got RFI issues here. I have not done anything to address them yet because the flex radio filtering is like second to none. It's fantastic. So I don't really have that much trouble with when I'm using my flex radio. Number two, I don't do a lot of sideband from home. I do mostly FT8, and on FT8, it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, it does, but it matters less.
So down on the bottom left above your MFK knob, there's a DFN and a DFL button.
Yep.
And those are your filters and noise reduction for this radio.
Digital
and they actually work really well. Just going from off to on your two filter settings works really well.
There's the noise, the NR. I heard it drop, but you can't see it in the waterfall. Oh, that's the filter.
That's like your twin passband filters on your 7300. And I don't yet know what the difference is between DNF and NR.
Digital noise filter and NR is just your standard noise reduction, but what's the difference?
But it's all digital in this radio. So it's to me, it's two different algorithms, but I don't know that they've actually written them.
I can hear a difference when I change those, but the waterfall doesn't seem to reflect it.
So Shark's asking if there's any way to turn off the filters. Can you be a little more specific? Because you can turn off the NR and the DNF.
I just did that.
But the other filters, you can narrow down your signal, or you can move it over to the left or to the right so you can avoid noise from an adjacent signal. But if you turn that off, you've lost your radio.
Right.
Because you're literally saying don't listen to anything. But I don't see that there's a notch filter. I guess you have to do that by yourself.
This guy talking right there.
And this radio does sound a little tinny. That speaker's about a quarter of an inch thick.
Somebody earlier said plug in an external speaker, which I have not done yet, and I don't have one handy here with me. But I keep one of those really cool MFJ external speakers with me in my Go kit.
Mine's over on the other side
and,
of the room.
I've got like 4 of those in my truck, and I keep one in my Go kit. So I will try that the next time. I'll put that on video for the next something I do again. But I want to take this. I'm going to Galveston the week after we get back from Hamcation.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to take this thing down to the beach and try to do some POTA with it and see how we can do. So, yeah, that's a signal right there. I could hear the difference when I turned on the NR filter and the DNF filter. I could physically hear the difference. Even with the volume turned down, I was like, oh, wow, it dropped. But I couldn't see a difference in the waterfall. I didn't really see any signal difference in the scope there.
And I would assume that you would not in the first place. Now, if you turn your RF gain up or down, you'll see that change. But you're acting on the signal. You're processing the signal after you've received it, so it shouldn't change your waterfall.
Okay.
Logically.
Yeah, makes sense. That waterfall right there doesn't, with the exception of this big signal right here, this waterfall doesn't look too bad.
No, I like the way it looks. I've been thinking about, would I change the color scheme? The only thing I would change is that red on blue text. Everything else looks pretty good.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, a lot of guys change their waterfall colors. I never change mine. I think it looks weird when you do that.
You get used to it.
A couple of the guys have red in theirs. I'm looking at red on a waterfall, and I'm thinking somebody's got a huge signal.
Overpowered,
and they're like an S1, and I'm like, why is that red? I was like, oh, you change the colors. So I'm just not used to it. So I can hear that guy pretty well.
And we're not going to hear it through the stream because of the way all the microphones are set up.
Yeah. Can you not hear that at all?
I can hear it, but there you go.
I mean, he's probably like an S2 or S3. He's not very in there, but he's probably like a.
And that's on a band that you're not in resonance on anyway.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
And you will hear better on a resonant antenna.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Jesse's talking about the green on blue is hard on the eyes. It is the camera. It looks a lot better in person.
Yes. Yes. It is the camera. It's still washed out in the camera here.
Yeah.
I think I can. That's a little bit closer to what it looks like here. The screen is really bright.
And you can adjust general.
You can adjust the brightness of the screen as well.
Yeah, see if the brightness changes. Go to general on the left-hand side above the MFK knob. There we go.
Yep.
And then go into display settings, middle button on the bottom. And then there is BL level, which you're currently set to 5. So go down to where it says BL level, and then hit the 4th button on the bottom, which looks like a check mark.
Here?
Yep. And now that is your lower blue button. See at the top where it says volume, right below it says BL level. So if you move MFK, it will now change the brightness up and down from this screen.
Gotcha. Okay. Ooh, I can't even see that.
Yeah, the 0 setting is 0.
Yeah, the 0. Yeah, that's 0 and that's 1. That's a big difference.
And then it goes all the way up to 10 from there.
There's incremental differences all the way there. But that's 10, and the camera is adjusting for it some. You can tell it's actually a lot more defined than the camera is showing you guys right now. Like right there, I can't even see that if I look at it, but the camera's lighting up so the cameras can see it. So, which is what the camera's supposed to do. But yeah.
Yeah, newer cameras can pull some light out of darkness.
Yeah, they can. Yeah.
I hear a lot of people like, yeah, we're filming out after dark here, and even though it doesn't look like it in the camera, it's about 1 a.m.
Right, yeah, yeah, very true, very true. So, cool.
All right, so we've got John Kruk coming up after us on Communications and Cigars. I don't know what he's talking about tonight.
I don't know.
See if I can get a link for that.
He graced us with his presence on the on my stream last night, so that was fun to. Haven't had him on in a little bit, but yeah, everybody be sure and go. If you're going to Hamcation this weekend, be sure and go check out the Xiegu booth. They're going to have some cool demonstrations that they're going to be doing. So
yeah, tell them T.O. sent you.
Right. It's like, that guy, he's my neighbor. He plays his car stereo too loud.
Yeah, because we are neighbors up here. Now he's got, it doesn't look like he's got it set up. He likes to turn his live stream on like seconds before he goes live.
Oh, really? He doesn't. Oh, Evan says he's
scheduled right now.
Evan says he's not on tonight.
Okay.
So he's probably on his way to Orlando, I bet. Because I was reading on the schedule today and I had forgotten this, but initial setup day is actually Wednesday. So setup day 1 is Wednesday, setup day 2 is Thursday. So, which makes sense because every time I get there on Thursday, I walk in the morning and like Kenwood's already set up and HRO's already set up and MFJ, they're not even there yet. So they're always, Stubbs is always in there, setting up at the last minute. No, I'm like, they do a great job with their setup, but they're not in any big hurry about it.
Excellent. All right, folks, you have taken another fantastic hour of ham radio madness. This was the new Ham Nuggets format is kind of just a cold exploration, figuring stuff out as we go along and not really tied to any kind of outcome. And that's where we were tonight. And I appreciate everybody coming along for the journey and all the new viewers and it's going to be great. Jason, we will see you at Hamcation this coming weekend.
Sounds good. Thanks for the invite, man. Appreciate it. I enjoyed
definitely.
it tonight. It's always good to learn more about this radio, too.
And we'll do more of this in the future.
Yeah.
Thanks,
totally.
everybody. We'll see you later.
Later, guys.